Hello and welcome to Speaking Out on Financial Abuse. Stories of survival and hope after financial abuse in a marriage or romantic partnership. I'm your host, Lori G. And today we welcome back just in time for those stressful holiday gatherings, relationship coach, educator, and public speaker, Mr. J. Mr. J is an Air Force Army veteran who is a certified betrayal trauma practitioner. He doesn't just guide his clients successfully through the rough patches of relationships, he helps them transform into happier, freer lives than they've ever had before. Mr. J is going to talk to us about betrayal trauma and how to keep your sanity if you're going through your own rough patch through the holidays. Mr. J, happy holidays and welcome back to the program.
Well, thank you. Great to be here.
So, where in the world are you now and where are you originally from?
I was hatched in New York and I'm still living in New York. I've traveled the globe, but I really like more upstate New York, not necessarily New York City, because upstate New York is more family friendly and I have small kids. Foliage around the fall is beautiful and there's a lot to offer in the summers for the kids. And comparatively speaking, it's relatively safe. So I love being here. But like I said, I do travel a lot. We travel all over different countries, different states. Just came back from Belfast, Ireland. That was wonderful.
Wow.
We have a trip to the Philippines and Australia in the next month. So we're really trying to expose our kids to travel and different cultures and things like that. But as Dorothy said in The Wizard of Oz, there's no place like home.
And where were you originally from?
Oh, same place, upstate New York. I have lived in other states. I've lived in Georgia and I've lived in New York City and I've lived in Jersey and I've lived in Washington, D.C. And like I said, well-traveled, but I feel more safe walking downtown where I live at 3 o'clock in the morning than I do at 3 o'clock in the afternoon somewhere else. When you're home, you feel safe. Well, it should be able to.
So as a child,
even if the people there drive you crazy.
So we're going into the holidays. We're going to talk about betrayal trauma, but let's turn back the hands of time a little bit. What was your childhood like financially and otherwise?
Well, as some of your listeners may know, this is the second time I'm on the show. And one of the things that I said was, I think I had one parent that really overspent. And if they had $10 in the bank, they wrote a check for 20. And not only was that just irresponsible, and I'm not talking bad about my parents, I'm just describing them, but it really didn't help with how I learned financial responsibility. Not to mention, every single year after the holidays, we were mandated to move because my parents spent so much money, we didn't have money for rent, and then we were kicked out. So every holiday growing up was bittersweet because, yeah, it was nice for, the presents we got or the family time, although there was probably some arguing as well. We always knew that there was going to be a mass rush to move after the first of the year or shortly after. Then I had another parent who was raised by an extremely strict father, Irish father, and his philosophy was if you want something, you need to go out and earn it. And that was even at a young age. So my father, he got his first job at like 11 because his father said, if you want something, you go out and earn it. So anything that I ever wanted, ever, I couldn't go to my father. Again, I'm not disrespecting him. I'm describing him. I couldn't go to my father, including when I went to college. I went to my father and said, Dad, could you just give me bus money just to get to college? I didn't have a car. And he was like, no, you chose to go to college. Now, he had the money, but that was just his way of teaching me. And there's probably some pros and cons with that. The cons are I struggled a lot. Like a lot of kids my age were focusing on their studies. I had to focus on walking around the neighborhood every night looking for cans so I can take them back so I can have bus money. Did it build character? Sure. But, there were some cons too. But again, like I said, I had a mother who she got paid $10. She wrote a check for 20. And growing up, listening to all the lies she told, the phone company would call, I mailed a check yesterday. You should get it in a few days, or being thrown out or whatever in the new year. So I have a love-hate relationship with money. I'm going to end it with this. I have a closet right now. I have a closet that is probably as big as the average person's living room, and it's jam-packed with clothes. And probably 40% of those clothes still have tags on them. And what's interesting is people come and visit and they'll walk into my closet and say, oh, you're so lucky. Look at all your clothes. They don't know. My closet is just a trauma response because I had no clothes as a child.
Wow.
I had no clothes as a child. We started the year with one pair of pants, and that pair of pants had to last us to the end of pair of pants. And we couldn't afford a washer or a dryer. So when our pants got dirty, you stunk. Or you got a black crayon and you colored in that mustard stain and you went to school the next day. So my closet that, quote, impresses everybody is simply a trauma response.
How conscious were you as a kid that this was not a normal way to live financially?
That's the thing. I think when you grow up as a child, you believe this is what a family is like. Certainly you watch TV and you wish you had Leave It to Beaver mother, or you wish you had June from Lassie. I think that was his name. But kids, what you know becomes familiar, which is why a lot of times when I'm working with couples, especially a lot of the women, they'll be like, Mr. J, why do I always go attracted to abusive men? And then come to find out father was abusive or her uncles were abusive. And even though logically we know that's wrong, familiarity is comforting to us. Yeah. And so we will get into these relationships where we feel, how many times I hear every day, oh my gosh, I feel like I've known this person forever. It's different. I've known this person forever. Well, you might know their characteristics and their traits, but let's do a little deeper dive because that might not be so good.
Because that is the first thing we do often say is, he reminds me of my dad.
Or they just feel familiar. Well, what's familiar could have been you got up getting punched in the face every morning. That feels familiar. Doesn't mean it's healthy or good, but it's familiar.
So we're just expert pattern seekers.
It gets very nuanced and complex. I think certainly there's a cycle there, which is why I say all the time, as far as trauma goes, like, my God, if you don't transform your trauma, you're just going to transfer it. So like I've had a lot of trauma growing up. And if I didn't transform that, all I would do is transfer it to my kids. I don't want to get into generational trauma, but you take people like from the Holocaust or people that had kids after the sinking of the Titanic. There's studies that show even 2 and 3 generations after that, those kids are still having symptoms of generational trauma. So because trauma can get coded into our DNA cells, here's the deal. It's not necessarily expressed. It's the epigenetics, which I don't want to get into all that now, but it's how sometimes things are expressed. Like, for instance, you could have somebody 5 generations after the Titanic went down. They're like, I don't know why, but I don't like going on boats. I don't know why. They don't even know their great-great-great-great-grandfather died on the Titanic. I just don't like going on ships. I don't like going on cruises. I don't know why. I love the water, but it just scares me to get on a ship. So it shows up in our epigenetics, certain expressions of trauma. Now, and again, not to get all involved, but we also date the level of our self-esteem, which is why I tell people all the time, do not go from one bad relationship and hop into the next one, because we date on the level of our self-esteem, and we will meet somebody with that same self-esteem and their self-esteem is low. Your self-esteem is low, and now you're just creating that same traumatic, abusive cycle of unhappy relationships. Because one of the things I love hearing all the time, that was a joke, I don't, is, Mr. J, my last 7 relationships were all ended in betrayal or abuse. What's going on? Well, who's the common denominator of your last 7 relationships?
Well, let's go back to the very beginning. What is trauma, and how is betrayal trauma a whole different animal from an accident trauma?
Great question. So stress affects us. Trauma changes us. Trauma is anything that overwhelms our coping mechanisms. That's putting it in layman's terms. You and I can go out and take a walk and experience a car accident. That could traumatize me and not affect you at all. Because trauma is not what happened. It's how our body and our coping mechanisms deal with it. Your coping mechanisms could be completely different. And you're like, oh, that didn't even do anything. And I'm traumatized by it. Betrayal trauma is trauma at the hands of a primary attachment. That could be your parents. That could be a job. That could be, well, even a creator, God. And it can come in different forms. It could come in neglect, abandonment. It could come from, let's just say, a woman says, you know what, Mr. J, I've been very healthy and I've been exercising and I eat well and I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I feel like God betrayed me, my creator, or I feel like I betrayed myself, my body. Or betrayal certainly can come from infidelity, affairs in a relationship. It also could come from, say, suicide. They'll say, Mr. J, I was so close with my dad. I was so close with my dad. My dad was my best friend. And I walked in from school one day and there he was hanging from the ceiling. My dad took away my best friend. So my dad betrayed me. So betrayal trauma can happen. Now, I'm going to give you 3 reasons why betrayal trauma is different from non-betrayal trauma. Just 3. There's a couple, but number 1, it's because it's a secret society. If you lose a parent, you can get on social media and say, I just lost my dad. You can tell your boss, you get bereavement time. You got your neighbors bringing you macaroni and cheese. friends coming over, hugging you, saying, I'm sorry. What you don't do when you find out your spouse, your partner, your significant other has been cheating on you or is in an affair, you don't get out of bed and go to social media and say, everybody, my spouse is meeting prostitutes on their lunch break. Don't get me wrong. Some people do that, which it backfires, but it's a secret society. And because of that, it adds to the challenge of healing because you feel so alone. So it's a secret society, number one.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
There's shame, there's guilt, there's embarrassment. And these are all things that you don't feel with non-betrayal trauma. The other thing is the personalization of it. If you have a parent that passes away, it's sad. It's very sad. It could be traumatic, but you don't personalize it. When you find out that your spouse has been in an affair, we immediately start, well, what's wrong with me? Why wasn't I good enough? Why am I not worthy? Why am I not lovable? Am I that ugly? Did I gain that much? It's personal. And the last reason betrayal trauma is different from non-betrayal trauma is because trauma affects the here and now, the present and the future. Your parent dies, it's going to affect you today. And no longer will they be there for Christmas and Thanksgiving dinners. That's going to affect your future. Betrayal trauma is the only trauma that not only affects the current, present, and the future, but it also affects the past. Because now you can't go to certain restaurants anymore. You can't look at vacation photos anymore. Because now it's like, well, wait a minute. When we took the kids to Disney World and you said you had a meeting and you had to leave for 2 hours, did you really have a meeting or were you meeting up with him or her? Now you can't look at so betrayal trauma affects the past, present, and future.
And you mentioned betrayal of different types, but betrayal of yourself, feeling that you betrayed yourself, is that the hardest to recover from?
No. One of the first things we say to ourselves, how could I be so stupid?
Oh, yeah.
How could I be so dumb? But we say that so much. You know, there's a couple of things that I'll say. Great question, first of all. Very complex, very nuanced. So I'll try to just be relatively bullet point and quick, but great question. Number one, there's very few people that do not grow up with wounds, traumas, or things like that. Very few people. Because even if you've had an ideal childhood, there might have been something that, because trauma is not necessarily always what happens to you. Maybe it's what doesn't happen to you. Like, I'm going to give you an example. I'm talking with a guy right now. He's like, Mr. J, my father was faithful to my mother. He worked 3 jobs. He provided for us. He read to me at night before bed. He was a really good father. And while we were talking, we got down to some reality. And listen, we don't ever want to think bad about our parents. And I always tell people, you're not disrespecting your parents. You're just describing your childhood. That's all, with how that affected you. Long story short, every single day he had a next door neighbor who was the same age. Every single day after school, the next door neighbor's father would go across the street and play ball with his son, while this guy would just say, where's my dad? I wish my dad would play ball with me. So it's not necessarily what happened to him, it's what didn't happen to him. And that gave him a wound. And listen, the Latin word for trauma is wound. We all have wounds. We all have wounds. So anyways, what happens is that if we do not heal the wounds of our childhood or developmental trauma or childhood trauma or what have you, what we do is we bring on these coping mechanisms, these safety strategies. And let me give you a perfect example. Let's just say your mother only wanted to talk to you if you got A's on your report card, right? So what you did was, man, you got up every morning and you cleaned the kitchen and you said, yes, ma'am. And when she said jump, you said how high. You studied in school to get A's because you knew you were going to get love by pleasing your mother. Okay. The same thing. Let's just say your mother was a raging alcoholic, right? You knew to avoid your mother. Okay. I'm just going to come to the dinner table when there's dinner. Then I'm going to be quiet and I'm going to leave it. So now you grow up and you don't heal that. Now you become an avoider as an adult. That doesn't serve you. It served you when you were a child. It doesn't serve you now. Same thing now with the other person. Now you're a people pleaser because your mother only talked to you and loved you when you had A's. Well, that worked for you and kept you safe when you're younger. Now it doesn't work for you. But what happens is that we grow up with these unhealed wounds, and now we present ourselves to the world and we say, well, this is just who I am. No, it's not who you are. It's who you become because you didn't heal your wounds. So, I always say when we're dealing with the wounds of today, we got to go back to the wounds of yesterday. There's no such thing as healing the wounds of today without first addressing the heal. Well, listen, we can put out the fire, sure, but we got to go back to the wounds of yesterday. Now, there's something called betrayal blindness. Betrayal blindness was a term coined by Jennifer Freed in the 90s, betrayal blindness, and it's a part of our fight, flight, freeze nervous system. So actually, it's a part of our body and it's a part of our system, and its function is to keep us safe and healthy, but it bites us in the butt. let me give you a quick analogy. I don't know if you remember Little Red Riding Hood.
Mm-hmm.
She wants to go see her grandmother. She loves her grandmother. Man, she's got blinders on. She wants to go see her grandmother. Even though she knows there's a scary wolf in the forest, she doesn't care. She wants to see her grandmother. So she bakes all these breads and cookies and oatmeal muffins, and off she's hopping to her grandmother's house. She knocks on her grandmother's door, and she doesn't hear anything. Something inside her says something's off. She doesn't know what, but something says something's off. But you know what? She decides to excuse it away because she's so focused on seeing her grandmother. Then she opens up the door. Grandma, you home? Grandma? Grandma? Usually grandma responds. Grandma doesn't respond. Something really is saying something to her. Look into this more, Red Riding Hood. Look into this more. Address this. No, I just want to see my grandma. So she walks in the house. She goes in the bedroom. Now she knows it's not her grandmother because she even asks, Grandma, why do you have beady eyes, a long mouth, and sharp teeth? She knows it's not her grandmother, but something inside of her is still wishing it's her grandmother.
Yeah.
Well, obviously she gets eaten and she dies. Betrayal blindness is our way of excusing behavior because we don't want to believe the reality.
Absolutely.
The reality is too tough. So what happens, I'm going to give you a quick example. You find lipstick in your car and you're saying to yourself, let's just say it's a male-female couple. And let's just say you're in your husband's car and you find lipstick in the glove compartment. Immediately, something inside of you says something's off. Betrayal blindness kicks in, even on a subconscious level. And you're like, okay, wait a minute. We just got married. We spent $30,000 on a wedding. I do not want to tell all my friends I'm getting a divorce. I don't want my kids to grow up without a father. I don't want to go through all the, okay, you know what? He must have gave his coworker a ride. He's so nice. And she left her lipstick in the glove compartment. See? So this is why when people tell me all the time, how could I be so stupid? How could I be so dumb? No. Betrayal blindness kicked in and you did exactly what your body was supposed to do. But here's the deal. When the rubber hits the road and now it's in your face. Yes, there was an affair that happened. Yes, cheating happened. Yes, this happened. Now you're trying to heal a broken relationship when you've been so separated from yourself for years. You don't even know who the hell you are trying to heal something so broke. It's very complex.
Well, at least to appear that it's not broken. How can I make this look okay? And some of us are really good at it, really good at creating a facade over another partner that actually doesn't exist. You're inventing this person in a sense. And going into the holidays, which we're definitely going to be talking about, that's where it really kicks in. That's where you throw Miracle-Gro on all these types of relationships because you're kind of swallowing your bitterness and just finding little ways for it to get out, like little angers when you are dealing with rage.
Yeah, I do want to get into rage, which stems from anger, which then stems from hurt, fear, or frustration. So all these things, there's building foundations. But I'm going to tell you something. There's many people around the holidays that are sitting there with a fake smile on their face, looking at their partner in disgust because of how maybe their friends or family are also thinking who you're with is a loser. But then there's also many, many people who are at the dinner table with a fake smile on their face, just having discovered their spouse had a 3-4 year affair with their best friend, and their friends and family don't know. And all their friends and family are saying over and over, you won the lottery when you got married. Your husband's so wonderful. Oh my God, he treats you so well. And you're sitting across the table saying, if you only knew. You ever watch The Wizard of Oz? The Tin Man, I think he squirts steam out of his head. Sometimes we're sitting at the table, steam is coming out of our head, and you're ready to tip this table over and scream at the top of your, because everybody, your husband's so wonderful. Look at how he provides. And you just found out he was cheating on you or having an affair. Talk about rage. Talk about rage.
Especially when their respect for him has been manufactured by you.
Oh, yeah. And now you have inward focused rage because now you disrespected yourself by not telling your authentic truth, your authentic self about who this person is or was, not to mention now they're acting and expressing it in this way. This is one of the things, too, about betrayal is going back to what I was saying before is, how could I be so dumb? How could I be so stupid? Is a lot of people will tell me, Mr. J, I knew something was off. I couldn't pinpoint it. I might not have been able to pinpoint it. I knew something was off and I disrespected my intuition. I disregarded my gut. Now I need to learn how to forgive myself first before I even try to forgive what they did. Because I work with couples that try to repair and rebuild after broken trust. 98% of all my couples come to me because they want to stay together after broken trust.
How does someone know if they're in rage as opposed to just being angry about something? How does someone know, wow, I'm in trouble with how much in rage I am right now? Where are those big warning signs? Whoa, I got to stop. I'm mad.
Yeah, I always say the line between anger and rage is harm. When we start entertaining, feeling, or thinking harm, that's rage. And I'll tell you something. There's a lot of my clients that after they discovered broken trust in their relationship have either become suicidal or had suicidal tendencies. That's rage. At the same token, a lot of my clients have had homicidal thoughts. That's rage too.
I can relate to that.
They have their spouse, their partner, their significant other in the driver's seat of the car. And they're thinking, if I ram my car in the tree right now, how could I make him die, but me not? I mean, that's what people's thoughts are when they're in rage.
And that's when you really want to stop and seek help for yourself. And that's where you come in.
Hopefully you're seeking help way before this.
But we don't, though. If we don't recognize that we are in this state, and again, if we grew up in this kind of stress, if we don't have a lot of role models, this could go on and on. This is just normal.
Yeah. And keep in mind, especially our generation, a lot of our role models, and I'll just say women, but men too, they didn't have the resources that are out there today. So a lot of our role models were suck it up and just stay with them.
That's a great point too, is that resources have really exploded in the domestic violence world altogether. And now we don't just have shelters for people that are escaping the final physical violence, but we're going back earlier in these relationships and looking at coercive control. Well, tomorrow is Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving is leading into what some people consider the dreaded holidays, talking about betrayal trauma. There are relatives and extended family members that you probably only see once a year because they are so annoying, and they'll always bring up that very humiliating thing you did when you were 13 or 14, and they'll always bring it up at the dinner table and everybody laughs at you. First of all, how do you cope with people who really and truly do enjoy humiliating you at holidays? They don't even know how bad your situation is, but they always like to push your buttons because you feel betrayed.
I'm going to start with the most obvious response first. You do not have to RSVP yes to every request. That's number one. Aunt Sally, who always asks you the most, when are you going to have kids? When are you getting married? What happened to that black and blue eye you had when your last relationship? If you know Aunt Sally's that and she invites you to dinner, you don't have to go. That's number one. Number two, you are always welcome to set boundaries when you visit the holidays. Hey, listen, I'm going to stop by. Unfortunately, I can only stay for a half an hour because I have other engagements, but I miss you and I love you and I definitely want to stop. You don't miss them. You don't love them. And you definitely don't want to stop, but you are stopping. But because it's now controlled in their mind, they want to make the most out of that visit. So they're hopefully not going to go negative. Number three, I always say Clark Kent and Wonder Woman had special powers. And oftentimes around the holidays, we have to get into character. What does that mean? I don't know if you know, but Wonder Woman had bracelets, and those bracelets were made out of feminum. Feminum comes from the Amazonian mountain where it's stronger than steel. And every time a bullet would come her way, Linda Carter, you're like this. Shh, shh. And so what we have to do is every time Aunt Sally wants to bring up something ridiculous that's infuriating is mentally, we just lift up our palms that have those bracelets on them. Shh, shh, bounces back, doesn't even bother me. Or if you're a guy, Superman, mentally go into your phone booth and put on that costume with the big S on your chest. And when Dad, Aunt Sally, whoever it is says something, you just mentally puff out your chest. Doesn't even bother you, whatever. Now, the next thing I would say is have a few practiced rebuttals. And it could be anything like, oh my gosh, Aunt Sally, I do remember that time. But you know what's even a funnier story? Do you remember 3 years ago, I went to the store and I bought that bread and I came home and there was a mouse in it? There, see, you have a planned rehearsal, a planned rebuttal already. And then another thing, too, is a lot of times people don't feel safe. And this could be anything from a betrayal that you're currently going through or Aunt Sally betrayed, whatever. Some people actually wear like little anklets or something of things that inspire them or give them strength. Like I have a client right now, she decided she's going to wear one of her favorite anklets, I think they call it, that she got from Ireland. That was her great-grandmother's. And her great-grandmother went through a lot and she was a strong woman. So she's going to wear it now to Thanksgiving. And every time she gets triggered, she's going to tap into her great-grandmother's strength, shaking her leg to feel that anklet. So there's a lot of things that you can do. It's funny because I was just talking to my niece the other day, and now clubs are not the way they were years ago, especially post-COVID. But years and years ago, when I used to go clubbing, Thanksgiving night was the time clubs were packed.
Really?
Packed. And that's because everybody's going to family for the first time in a long time. And Lord, you need a drink by the end of the night. So the clubs are packed. And listen, family knows what buttons to push because 9 times out of 10, they're the one that's created those buttons.
That is so true. And it's not just one. You have Thanksgiving and then you've got Christmas and then you've got New Year's. It's just within a 5-week period. If somebody's going through this type of trauma, actively going through this type of trauma, and they need to get through the holidays, what's the best thing they can do for themselves?
First of all, let me just say this. That's a very good question you asked because you absolutely need to heal yourself. Because I always say, everywhere you go, there you are. So even if you have the money to go to Tahiti, you're bringing your wounds with you if you don't work on them. A couple of things. Number one, and it depends from person to person, client to client, because a lot of the couples that I deal with have young kids. So they're like, Mr. J, we still got to celebrate Christmas. We still got to make the rounds with family. I got kids. My heart's not in it. I have no zest to do that. I would rather just stay in bed with a blanket over my head. Couple things that I tell my clients is, number one, put up a bank tree. So a bank tree is this. A lot of people, when they put up Christmas trees, they're putting on ornaments of like pictures of family vacation or
memories
that you got. Yeah, memories. Well, when you walk into a bank around the holidays, there's no memories with those bulbs. It's just to make it look nice. A Christmas tree at the bank. That's it. Put up a bank Christmas tree. Nothing has to be memorable or meaningful in your Christmas tree this year. You could have a bank Christmas tree in your house. That's number one. Number two, if you're trying to rebuild and repair and it's still fresh with your partner, tell them we're not exchanging gifts this year. I don't want a meaningful gift from you. I don't want to buy a meaningful gift. I can't stand you right now. We're not buying for each other. Okay. Let's alleviate that stress. Again, around the holidays, you have every right as an adult individual to say, this year, I'm going to spend Christmas at home. That's it. Now, you're welcome to open the invite for people to stop by if you want, but you're not mandated to go anywhere. I mean, the average person's life is 70, 80 years. There's plenty of time we can go to friends and family around Christmas. If you need to spend 1 or 2 or so at home, that is your prerogative. If somebody else wants to get upset about that, that's their decision and what they're going to have to deal with, not you. We don't have to be people pleasers. And then the other things to do is, it's not necessarily the big things, it's the consistent small things you have to do. Like, for instance, oftentimes I recommend this to a lot of my clients. Before you get out of bed in the morning, especially people that have like a faith background, tell yourself, Lord, help me to remember that nothing can happen today that you and I can't handle together. Like, put that already into motion, that today's going to be a rough day, but we're going to get through it. Remind yourself that, you know what? I've had a lot of rough days in the past and I've made it through those. So I'm going to make it through this. Break your days down instead of saying, oh my God, there's Thanksgiving and then there's Christmas and New Year's and I got to do this and I got to do that.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
Manage each day to the best of your ability. Okay, what's on my agenda for today? Let me just do that. That's it. I highly, highly, highly recommend people keep a holiday journal, because if you don't journal anytime throughout the entire year, keep a holiday journal, because we have so many thoughts in our head, so many thoughts, some good, some bad, some frustrating, some exciting, but it all creates anxiety. They're thoughts. We got to get those thoughts out. And one of the best ways to do that is just write them on paper. You know what, journal? Today, I'm just really pissed off. I can't even tell you why, but I am. Period. That's all you got to write. Or I'm so excited today. My LED lamp is coming in the mail. It doesn't matter. Just write down something, get things off your head, because our brain is like taking a bottle of soda and shaking it and shaking it. If you don't release the cap, the can's going to explode. So we got all this crap in our brain. Release it. Write it down. And I'm telling you something, whatever feeds your soul, you got to do. Whatever feeds your soul. One of my best things that drives my family crazy, but I don't care, I belt out opera in the shower. This is how I just release all the crap. I'm not on pitch. I don't sound good. I'm off key all the time. But you know what? There it is. While my soap's under my arm, I'm belting out. That's how I get rid of all the yuck in my body. So what feeds your soul? Now, you want to be careful, because you don't want to numb, distract, and avoid. Because some people say, well, feeding my soul is watching a crime murder mystery. Okay, maybe.
Spending a ton of money on yourself at Christmas. You know what? I deserve.
What more do you deserve is to have economic freedom by being responsible with your money. So even though, you do deserve to buy this, but what you also deserve is to feel good that you're financially responsible. One of the things that I have found personally, because we always want to keep up with the Joneses, even though 9 times out of 10, the Joneses are bankrupt themselves, but we always want to keep up with the Joneses. But do you know what I've started doing years and years ago, and it's really panned out well, is I don't buy people gifts anymore. I buy them memories. So for example, my nephew turned 7 not too long ago, and I gave him a coupon for, I'm going to take you out to ice cream, and we're going to have a special uncle and nephew date. I took him out for ice cream. Lori, what did I spend? $10? And do you know that's all he talks to his mother about to this day? Last year for Christmas, I bought one of my dear friends. I gave her a coupon. I said, this coupon is good for one special cup of coffee. I'm going to prioritize a date night with you, a friend date night. And we went on a coffee date, and it's been years. And do you know, she still brings that up to me. She's like, do you know that how special and meaningful that was? Lori, I spent what, $5 on coffee? So I don't buy gifts anymore. I buy memories. You save a lot of money and you have much more of an impact.
That is so brilliant.
And listen, people still want gifts and want tangible gifts, but how many times do you go out and spend a lot of money? I mean, oh my God, you know how much like Legos are nowadays? Holy cow. You go out and spend all this money to buy, let's just say a kid, it could be an adult too, but somebody a gift, and the kids wind up 2 days later, I don't know where that gift is, or it's broken, or it's whatever, and they're still playing with the box. But yeah, you spend $150 on a gift, or even an adult thing. It's like you spend all this money on something for the adult. I remember one time I bought my sister this neck massager, top of the line neck massager, whatever. She used it during Christmas Day. She's wearing it like a lot of us do. Oh, thank you, thank you. I asked her a couple of weeks later, that neck massager still working? How? She said, Jason, I can't find it. I have no idea where it is. And I haven't even thought about it, to be honest with you. So it's like, this is what I'm saying. So I buy people now memories instead of gifts.
What New Year's resolutions should somebody who is really suffering through a betrayal trauma experience make for themselves for 2026, you think?
To define and point inwards forgiveness. We so often are thinking of, I need to forgive this person. I need to forgive this person. Well, you know something? We got our own negative dialogue and narrative in our own brain that we constantly are looping. Have we ever forgiven ourselves for believing those lies? We'll forgive somebody else for lying to us. But yet when we loop like, oh, I was a nuisance to my mother. I was a pain in the butt to my father. I was worthless to, I always got in the way when I was, these are all negative messages that are in our brain that we loop and loop. Have we forgiven ourselves? I'll tell you something. A lot of the trauma that we have as adults comes from the lies that we believed as a child. So forgive yourself for believing those lies. That should be your goal for 2026.
Well, when we hear the word forgiveness, a lot of people immediately think religion. How would you describe that when you say forgive yourself? What does that mean exactly?
Well, I wouldn't describe it and I wouldn't give it. And this is why. That's like you coming to me and saying, Mr. J, what does somebody have to do for me to feel loved? I'd be like, I don't know. What makes you feel loved? So here's the deal. People have to define what forgiveness means to them. And if that means they have to go on their own little emotional journey to do some research about forgiveness, then the journey is even more important than the destiny. So I would tell people, you need to define what forgiveness means to you without using the terms letting go or forgive. And if you use the terms let go or forgive, you need to write down how you're going to do that. So define what forgiveness means to you first and foremost, because forgiveness, you can ask 100 different people what definition of forgiveness is, and you're going to get 100 different answers. So you have to first define what forgiveness means to you. Again, not using the terms letting go or forgive, but if you do, write down, how do I go through the process of letting go? Define what forgiveness means to you. And then first and foremost, before you even give it to somebody else, because listen, if I ask you right now for $20 and you only have 10 in your pocket, you can't give me $20. So how are you going to give me forgiveness when you didn't even give it to yourself first?
What is step one if somebody is experiencing that first few shocking moments, days, weeks after that thing has happened? Now, I realize betrayal trauma can be a lifetime, but let's say the big thing. You found the text message, you found the email. It's Christmas Eve and you found this stuff.
First of all, you need to, and I know this is hard because you're in a state of shock, but you need to ask yourself, what do you need? And I say this because if you need to go to your car and punch your steering wheel and scream bloody murder and curse at whoever, but you have kids at home, so you can't do it inside the home. You got to go to your car or go in your closet, shut the door and punch a pillow, whatever you need to do to initially alleviate that rage, then you do that. Lori, I can't tell you how many times I'm talking to somebody and they'll say, Mr. J, I discovered my wife's or my husband's affair or betrayal while we're sitting down having a big family dinner with extended family.
Wow.
What was I to do? There's a volcano inside me, an earthquake inside me. And my mother-in-law is talking about how she's going to decorate the Christmas tree. And I can't even think.
Yeah.
And this happens every holiday. Every holiday. This is going on with many people, unfortunately. So one of the first things you have to do is politely excuse yourself from the table and give yourself what you need. Some people need to go in the bathroom, clutch their rosary, and just start praying. Some people need to go to their car and scream and get that out. Then eventually what you want to do, I said it before, is you absolutely want to journal. Then the other thing too, you want to tell yourself is I'm not going to make any major decisions until some of the dust settles. Because I can't tell you, Lori, how many times people get divorced before the dust settles, then they regret that. Or I can't tell you how many times people immediately forgive and decide to stay, and then months later they regret that. Don't make any major decisions. If you're going to stay, you can stay whether it's 10 weeks from now, 10 months from now, 10 years from now. If you're going to get a divorce, you can get a divorce 10 days from now, 10 weeks from now, 10 months, 10 years. You don't need to make any decisions immediately. And on top of that, what you're doing is you're dishonoring yourself because you're making a decision from a place of fear, not from a place of empowerment. Yeah. I want you to do a little bit of calming down and healing so you can make a decision from empowerment. Because once you make a decision from empowerment, then you're making a decision that you can live with in your confidence and there's love with it.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times people talk to me saying, I'm divorced now, Mr. J. It was a whirlwind and I made a decision out of fear. Having said that, people want to make sure if they've discovered any type of infidelity at any point, make sure you don't get back involved sexually unless you do a full STI and STD check, and that's with both partners. You want to absolutely get with a professional because you need to do what's called a therapeutic disclosure. And you want to take your day minute by minute, hour by hour, because your brain is hijacked and you're in a state of shock and you just want to do a lot of grounding techniques. Okay, I know what I know now. It's out of the bag. I'm not in a room right now with a hungry tiger growling at me. I'm not in imminent danger. The danger is now behind me because I know I'm safe. Let me look at the room. Let me notice grounding techniques. That could be in the form of EFT, which is tapping. That could be, let me look around and say, okay, what are a couple things I can see, a couple things I can smell, a couple things I can touch? Grounding technique. Could be somatic things. Reach around you and give yourself a butterfly hug. There's many, many grounding techniques. But what happens is that when you ground yourself, your breathing changes. When your breathing changes, it triggers your nervous system to say, I'm not in any danger. You don't need to release the fight or flight situation.
If you are at that table at dinner, let's say the opposite scenario. Let's say you've hid this so well from your family. They have no clue that you've been under domestic violence. How do you discuss something like this? Because really, unfortunately, the holidays is when it happens because that's when you're all together.
Yeah, one of the things I know I'm speaking now after the fact, but one of the things I caution people is give people the respect to not put them in a position of discomfort because you're in a position of discomfort. If I'm sitting around the table thinking that I'm having a Thanksgiving dinner with my family and there's a bunch of families and then somebody at that point wants to announce I've been abused all these years and I'm whatever, certainly I would want to hear that if it was a loved one because I'd want to help them. But you're putting people in a position where they now have to make rash judgments where they didn't have time to think of how they're going to deal with this. First of all, anybody that's going to disclose to friends or family what's going on, hopefully they've spent some time creating a plan, an exit strategy, a financial plan. And then what you want to do is individually go up to your family members or not, because listen, you don't owe anybody an explanation for any decisions in your adult life. But what you do want to do is say, hey, listen, just want to tell you because this is going to affect your relationship with your brother-in-law, but I have filed for divorce. This is my plan, and this is why. I'm asking you not to say anything right now. Hopefully they'll respect that. But I don't want you to be sideswiped with information, so I'm letting you know that. However, sometimes it does come out around the holidays. And Lori, sometimes it goes smooth and sometimes the cops are called. Once you open your mouth and exit something, you can't manage how it's going to affect people. You can manage yourself. You can manage what you're going to say, when you're going to say it, how you're going to say it. Once it's out, you can't manage the crowd.
Yeah.
So take that into consideration before you say something.
Because we're looking for validation for our decisions and we want support for that, but that may not happen at the dinner table.
That may not happen. And it's not because, and here's the deal, it may not happen because families could be buttholes, definitely, but it also may not happen because families don't want to look bad with their in-laws. So families might all be on your side 100% behind closed doors in secret, but when they're in front of, now they're like, well, he isn't that bad, or why don't you give him another chance, whatever, and then you feel betrayed.
Yeah.
So this is why you can't manage how they deal with things. So just be very careful and considerate when you do share information.
Is that one of the most frustrating things about trying to recover from betrayal trauma is other people see the betrayal?
Which is why I always say you don't owe anybody an explanation at all for your life. Everybody comes into this life, especially when you get to be an adult, you're handed a pen, okay? You're handed a pen when you get to be an adult. And you're the only person responsible to write the chapters of your life book. So why give somebody else your pen? You don't have to justify to anybody. Now, I'll tell you something. I've heard plenty of situations where people have disclosed things like this, and their mother or their aunt will say, oh my God, he's such a beautiful person with a beautiful heart, whatever. And they'll be like, you know what? Well, that's a classic narcissist. They are beautiful in front of people. But what I'm experiencing is behind closed doors. That's not what you're experiencing. I remember another person one time, her mother went on and on about, well, maybe he did do this, but he's such a good provider and whatever. And she said, Mom, you know what? Satan was a beautiful angel one time. But bottom line, it's still Satan.
That's a really good point.
If you want to share with family members, you have to consider your source. Is this person historically been my rock? If not, I may be setting myself up for some more betrayal by telling them, especially in front of the person I'm with.
Yeah, and there are definitely people listening right now. There's at least somebody out there who's going to be saying something at the holidays to their families about possibly the end of a marriage.
Another thing, too, I just want to say is when you walk in, is there a possibility you can bring your Aunt Sally to the side and say, hey, Aunt Sally, I just want to let you know, if you wouldn't mind not bringing up A, B, and C during this visit, I would really appreciate that. That's number one. Another thing, too, I just want to say it's what I call psychological investment. Anytime you psychologically invest in someone, it cuts down the amount that they want to insult you profoundly. For example, if you walk in and say, oh my God, Aunt Sally, you look amazing. Where did you get that sweater? Oh my Lord, I love your sweater. Now she doesn't want to insult you as much as maybe she would before.
That's pretty smooth. What is your New Year's going to look like?
When you get to be my age and my stage, it can get pretty boring around New Year's. I remember back in the day when married with no kids or single, New Year's, woo, party. But now it's like I set my alarm for 11:45 to get up so I can enter in the new year. That's what I do. But really, my new year is always challenging myself with two things. Number one, what have you struggled with this past year that you want to be better in this upcoming year?
That's great.
And number two, really renewing my vow. So, Lori, every day before I get out of bed, I come up with a word. It could be any word. Any word. It could be joyous. It could be loving. It could be warm. Any word at all. And what I try to do is every interaction, every encounter I have with somebody, I try to impart that word. Then when I walk away from that interaction, I ask myself, was I able to do that? And it's such a good feeling to say, you know what? During that one sentence, I did say something that was a little kind or a little warm, whatever my word was. And I honored myself for that day. It feels good.
That is so cool. And what do you have coming up next year?
Well, I'm going to tell you something. You are the first person I'm going to share this with. How about that? I decided that I am going to teach a class at a local university. Nothing's going to change with my job. Still going to have all my clients, all this other stuff. But you get to a point in life when you accumulate an amount of wisdom and knowledge that it's only right to share that. And I share a lot of what I've learned and what I've been through and what I know with the adult population. I want to tailor that to talk to the younger population. After a while, I wouldn't mind creating my own betrayal trauma course to educate my kids on here's some of the ways that you can prevent potential betrayal trauma in your life, in your future, because they're just starting their lives out. I always tell people, I never went into this field. This field found me, but I just leaned in with all I got. And then the opportunities just open. And I think that's kind of my calling in life. This was never a field I wanted to pursue at all. It pursued me. So I lean in and the opportunities open and I lean into those opportunities. And one of the good things I will say about me is I do not fear rejection. I never did. I view rejection
You're rare,
as redirection.
dude.
I look at rejection as redirection. So I have no fear of rejection. And listen, Lori, I have a doctorate degree in failure, but it's because of my failures that I am who I am today. So I have no problem with failure or rejection.
That is fantastic. You are always such a thrill to have here. And I'm going to be bugging you probably every holidays because I think that this is a critical time of year for people going through obviously all kinds of trauma. But as you've been saying all along, betrayal trauma is so unique in its facets. And I am going to list Mr. J's links. Everything is going to be listed below. And I really encourage you to contact him and push him to do this course next year because I would be thrilled to promote and market that for you. Thank you again, Mr. J. I really appreciate this so much. And you have been listening to Mr. J. He is a betrayal trauma practitioner. Happy holidays and happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Thank you again. And you've been listening to Speaking Out on Financial Abuse.
Thank you for having me on, Lori. Have a great day. Happy holidays.